Hey guys, Patrick Wind here and welcome to this training model in which I'm going to present you our micro audiences strategy. So the micro audiences strategy is another very nice strategy that has already brought very good results. So in this specific e-commerce company, for example, that sells sunglasses, we have spent around 40k and made over 200,000 euros in return. So this is a ROAS of almost 6, and I'm actually pretty proud to present you what we have done in this company and how you could also apply this one to your own campaigns. So let's get started. What we have done is that we have basically created relevant copies and relevant creatives for each specific audience. This has of course helped us to get very high relevance scores, and these high relevance scores of an average of 9.5 or something, so we had many 10s and also many 9s and some 8s, so we were always very relevant for our audience. This helped us to win as many ad auctions as possible, and therefore we had very low CPMs, and given also the high click-through rates of something between 2 and 3 on average, we got very good results. What we did, we also retargeted with gender and country specific copies and creatives. So we did not only focus on prospecting on the specific ones, but we also retargeted them with very specific copies and creatives. And all of this we also boosted with some dynamic products. So we used mainly collection ads for mobile newsfeed and desktop newsfeed, and in order to also make use of desktop newsfeed, of right column, so on and so forth, we also used DPA, so dynamic product ads. But what is very important, that's something that I would like to show you in this video in a lot of detail, is that you can actually use DPAs, so dynamic product ads, also in prospecting. And how this works, I'm going to present you in this video. Moreover, from the creative part, we also worked a lot with influencer carousel ads in prospecting and retargeting. So we use the actual images that our influencers, mainly from Instagram, have used in order to tag our products, so on and so forth. And we used them in our ads in some carousels. And I'm going to show you how we did that. And then in this specific campaign, we also applied some additional thoughts. So for example, we focused on Facebook Messenger. So we created many ad sets for Facebook Messenger. But of course, you know, you cannot do Facebook Messenger on your own. So you have to combine it with the Facebook mobile newsfeed, for example. And that's what I'm going to show you then. And then at the end of the campaign, when Facebook launched the marketplace and also the Facebook stories as a placement, we also experimented a lot with that and experienced some good results there. And then last but not least, I would also like to share with you how we use the asset customization in order to optimize the ad formats for each specific placement. So let's get started. What is the idea behind micro audiences, and how can micro audiences really get these great results? Well, what you basically do is you define a narrow audience. So this goes not aligned with what many experts say, that you have to work with broad audiences, which makes a lot of sense. I also like to work with broad audiences, so between 800,000 and 1.5 million people. But when it comes to the micro audiences, it makes a lot of sense to have smaller audiences, something like 50,000 to 200,000, sometimes even to 500,000. So something in between that. So they don't have to be as broad as the normal ones, because they're much more specific. For example, in this case, we focus on women between 25 and 44 that speak English in our target country, in our target city, Copenhagen, so in Denmark. And the detailed targeting was that they were interested in sunglasses, and they're also very engaged shoppers. And to this specific kind of group, so only to these women that are interested in sunglasses in Copenhagen, we've shown the ad that you see on the right. Okay, so on the right you see the Danish flag and also Copenhagen girls, shade up for your next whatever event. Okay, so it's very specific. And we also, the creative is actually a Danish influencer, and we use this one because we know that this one resonates very nice. This picture resonates very nicely with the audience here in Copenhagen. However, we did a similar approach in London, for example. In London, we also targeted women, a younger one, 25 to 34, because the London audience is very big, so you can even target more specific, so therefore only 25 to 34, speak in English, and also same interests, engage shoppers or sunglasses. And here we used, of course, another copy, so we used the British flag, London girls, shade up for your next whatever event, okay? And the creative we're using here are two British influencers. So on the first one we used the Danish influencers for Denmark, and here we used the British influencers for the British community, for the British audience. And what did we do with the men? Well, that is something that I think is very funny, and it worked very nicely. Important to know is that when it comes to Facebook and Instagram ads, you always should consider some big society events that are going on. For example, the World Cup final. So when a soccer World Cup is going on, everyone's talking about the World Cup. So you can also jump on this train and talk about the World Cup within your ads. And for example, what we did here is we targeted men in Paris. So men in Paris that are interested in FIFA, that are interested in football, that are interested in the association of football. Okay, so around 600,000 people. And to those men in Paris that are interested in football, we've shown the ad on the right side. So a French influencer with our products tagged in there, and below we say Paris, support France this Sunday with whatever, and Allez le Bleu. Okay, so with this one we got very high engagement rates because of course we showed this on, for example, the Thursday, Friday and Saturday before the World Cup final, and of course the French people, the men in Paris who are interested in soccer, they completely loved this ad. And now the fun part, we did exactly the same also in Croatia with men in Zagreb. So men in Zagreb who were interested in soccer and football and FIFA World Cup and Association of Football. We've shown a Croatian influencer with our products tagged, and then Zagreb, shade up to support Croatia this Sunday with so on and so forth. So you see the basic idea is that you create relevant content, so relevant creatives or relevant copies for the specific audience. And we were lucky because we had influencer images for each specific sub-target and sub-audience, and this of course worked very nicely. What else did we do? Well, we did that for prospecting, but then in retargeting we were also playing around and experimenting a lot with the relevance score, because we also separated our retargeting audience into the specific countries and also the specific gender. So for example, for Denmark, women, we use the audience on the left. So retargeting, for example, view content 30. So everyone who viewed one of our sunglasses in Denmark over the last 30 days and who is a woman. And they have seen, obviously, an ad relate with relevant content for this kind of audience. On the right side, you see another set of the view content 30. So let's say our view content 30 is 10,000 people. 2,000 of them are women from Denmark, and 3,000 of them are women from the UK. And they see, of course, a different ad in this, according to this strategy of being very relevant with the micro audiences, because this helps you to get very high relevance scores. And the same with men, of course. So the men that have come to our website and viewed our specific product, for example, here in France, that have come from our Allez le Bleu and support France this Sunday ad, they see another ad here for France, and then on the right side for the ones in Croatia. Okay, so this is the strategy to present always relevant content to our micro audiences. And as I said, we complemented this strategy with some dynamic product ads, with some very again, very relevant content. So what we did, we played around with the ad composer, so the feed composer. So we did not only use standard DPAs. So DPA on the left side, for example, those are two examples of a dynamic product ad. So for example, a carousel ad where you demonstrate your product in a dynamic way. And usually people only use white background in those DPA images when the product in front of it. But you could also play around with some overlays, for example, the price, or you could even compose your own feed and then have some lifestyle pictures or some frames behind it. And this has helped us a lot. And on the right side, you also see an example how this how a collection ad would actually look like if you create a customized feed with not only the white background, but for example with the frame that Desigual has created here. Okay. And then, as I promised to you, I'm also going to show you exactly how you can use those dynamic product ads, so the ones on the left side, in prospecting, so to attack new people. So it's basically very, very easy. On the left, you see the standard way of doing DPAs. So you work with the interface from Facebook, so use the info from your pixel or app to create a retargeting audience. And for example, you take the viewed or added to cart, but did not purchase, and then you take 30 days, so on and so forth. But you always see that there are two ways to set it up, right? So the one is the interface from Facebook, and the right one is define a broad audience and let Facebook optimize who sees your product. So what many people have already understood is that you could do exactly the same of what you do here with the interface, also on your own. So if you just, instead of creating here viewed or edit cart, but did not purchase, you could also just select here view content, and then you would need to exclude, so simply put exclude purchased, and it's going to be exactly the same. So we already see that here on the right side with the define a broad audience, we can put in the custom audience that we want. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means we cannot only put in a custom audience, but we could also say, you see, add custom audience or lookalike audience. So we could also put in a lookalike audience, for example, and this is already a prospecting ad. So we're using the dynamic product ads already in prospecting. When we're using a lookalike 1%, for example, he was based on the Kickstarter audience because it was a project very successful in Kickstarter, and we were very successful with this lookalike audience here. And the third option that you can still do besides using a custom audience and a lookalike audience is that you can of course also use a saved audience with your product catalog campaigns. So you just click here, define a broad audience, and then instead of create new, use a saved audience, and then you can select the audience whatever you want. So, and what else did we do on the creative element? Well, we used the influencer images, okay? And besides using the influencer images, we even tagged them, so we even mentioned them in the description, and this helped us a lot because all of these influencers, they have their own community and they engage with this content very nicely. And this idea does actually not come from ourselves. It's actually a strategy with the influencers that comes from Quay Australia. They use this a lot. Q Australia or Quay Australia, they're like hawkers in Australia, so they're the #1 sunglass company there, and they do this very often. So for example, here they say Quay Australia Festival featuring Sofia Richie, and then they use a super famous influencer in Australia featuring their products, and then they use this very interesting images with their products in their own carousel ads, and the same on the right side. So this is a very good strategy, and it worked very nicely not only for Q Australia but also for us. And in the last part of this video, I would like to present you 2 further strategies that we have applied in this campaign. On the one hand, we focused a lot on Facebook Messenger. So this placement here, so down here, it looks like this. So within the Facebook Messenger app, you will get a sponsored single image or even a horizontal video here. This is something that we used, but of course, as you very well know, to use the Messenger, you also have to select at least the Facebook feeds placement, so at least the Facebook mobile news feed, and that's what we did. So the only way to really spend more money on Facebook Messenger proactively is when you create an own ad set that includes just Facebook mobile newsfeed and the Messenger. This way it will keep spending and increase your reach on Facebook Messenger, which works very nicely. Moreover, at the end of the campaign, we also started to play around with Marketplace, and it also worked nicely, plus Facebook Stories. So this is something that was recently launched and helped us a lot to get good results. And what important for you to know, when Facebook launches one of these new placements, so whenever there is something completely new in your ad manager, you should always give it a try. Always. On the one hand, because you really benefit people that adopt to those new features, and on the other hand, you have less competition. Okay, so right now on Facebook Stories, the huge companies, let's say Unilever or Mercedes or Volkswagen or whatever, they're not on Facebook Stories right now. It took them very long to adopt to Instagram Stories, but Facebook Stories, it's a new field for them, and all the big ones are not there, and therefore there's low competition, and therefore the CPMs are also cheap. And then the last element that I would like to share with you in this video is that we used also asset customization. For example, you could, when you're on ad set level, you could click and then you do not use automated placements, but you click edit placements, and then it opens up this one, and below the device type you can actually click on asset customizations, and if you click on select all placements available for asset customization, right now it's Facebook feeds, Instagram feed, Instagram Stories, Audience Network, and also desktop newsfeed. So these are the placements that open up here. And on the right side, you see what happens then on ad level. On ad level, you can choose one specific format or even a different video or different image when you are on ad level. So customize for a certain placement. For example, for Instagram Stories, I have to use a video that's up to 15 seconds and should be portrait, so vertical. However, for Instagram feeds, I would like to use a one-on-one, for example, video, and can be up to 60 seconds. On Facebook newsfeed, it could even be up to 240 minutes. Okay, and it could be vertical, horizontal, squared, whatever. And so I can really play around and use the right format for each of these assets, which is eligible for the asset customization. So guys, in this pretty cool video about micro audiences strategy, I've presented you why it makes a lot of sense to create relevant copies and creatives for each specific audience. I've shown you how we retargeted them also with gender and country specific copies and creatives. Then I've walked you through collection ads and DPAs, how you can also create them in prospecting, and I've shown you why it's a good idea to come up with influencer carousel ads in prospecting and retargeting. And then at the end of the video, we've talked a lot about Facebook Messenger, Marketplace, and Facebook Stories, and how you can use those new placements in order to improve your campaign performance. And then the asset customization, how it helps you to really get the optimized ad format for each placement. So guys, thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.